I want to start by sort of saying, for those of you expecting a broad view of uh, the supply chain from me, I hope I'm not going to disappoint you. I took a decision really that I'd rather spend the next 20 minutes of your valuable time giving you an idea, something that you can do to help your business move forward. The challenges that retailers and brands face are fundamental, and I didn't want to go, over and over that. I think the dramatic shift in the past 6 months has been painful and obvious. This, however, has given rise to an opportunity based on a seismic shift in the consumer's behaviour. I'm concentrating today on an initiative that relies equally on the capabilities and the collaboration of retailers, manufacturers and distributors, with a need to consider the customer experience and scale as critical components. So the next slide isn't going to deliver earth-shattering news. The blue vertical arrows you'll see in a second are key drivers of a successful retail business. The red horizontal arrows are inhibitors to progress. Firstly, growing revenue. Many ways, obviously, to attack revenue. I think the three main ones right now are looking at choice, availability, and working on creating greater loyalty. Reducing cost, operationally removing non-value-added activities, automating and consolidating, but also sweating key assets such as inventory and space. And increasingly important, the need to be more responsive. So allied to those two, the ability for businesses to be able to face this uncertainty by first improving the capacity they have. And that's either owned capacity or virtual capacity, and I'll come on more to that. And also upgrading the speed of decision-making supported by the agility of the resources and information systems that they rely on to execute these decisions. Two big inhibitors first. So competition. Competition has always been there, but Amazon has brought a very different and a powerful business model. They're not just a marketplace. They've been able to create a fundamental shift in consumer expectations, supported by a state-of-the-art logistics, and not to mention virtually unlimited access to capital. The second is uncertainty, which is an increasing feature of life, whether it was Brexit last year or even this year, trade wars, or certainly right now the impact of the pandemic. Uncertainty makes it much harder for businesses to figure out what to do to protect and develop themselves. And forgive me for the simplicity of the next box, but now more than ever, there is a compelling case to do something different and to do something fast. At the same time, there is an opportunity for growth. During lockdown, online purchases reached a percentage of total revenue of 30%. It's now predicted that they will even become 50% by 2025. There's also an opportunity for retailers to grab back some of the initiative. Customers of Amazon that were on autopilot, myself included, were prompted to become less loyal during lockdown. As we searched for scarce products, we found that some could be found closer to home. And this tendency to be more open in our search for products and not to default to Amazon and some of the main marketplaces has persisted. What I describe next is one formula for growth. It's not the only one, I hasten to add, and being a formula, of course, all of the ingredients are necessary for it to make it work. Firstly, prioritize over other initiatives, the broadening of your online offer. I'd like to emphasize, I'm not talking about endless aisle. The offer has to still align with the consumer's perception of what your brand represents. That said, the benefits of smart assortment growth are twofold: incremental sales from new products, and also something we see every time, which is a halo effect of having a broader range, which attracts more people to your website in the first place and tempts them to buy more when they are there. It's an overused term, but delight your customers. There is no point in pursuing the first item unless customers are happy with their experiences and come back for more. And thirdly, margin erosion. The dilemma with shifting more business online is that if you don't re-engineer fulfillment, your margins will suffer. It's generally more expensive to serve customers online. One way to address this formula is to take a relatively undervalued practice and elevate it to be a strategic weapon for your business, namely dropship. The validation of dropship as an important strategic initiative is coming from all quarters. The validation is coming from all quarters. Emily Pfeiffer, who is a senior analyst at Forrester, recognizes two things. One is that dropship enables retailers to achieve higher margins, but also for brands, it provides a very effective way to sell a greater range of your catalog. So how does dropship make a real difference? At a simple level, this is retailers entrusting suppliers to fulfill on their behalf. The thing that makes it strategic is the scale at which you can now rely on dropship and the speed with which you can get there. Thank you. That was distracting me. The final point, which I will continue to drum home, is the need to protect the customer experience. At all costs, dropship has failed to take off in the past because retailers assumed it was just about integration, a kind of EDI, and failed to see that it needed smart processes and expertise. The aim of dropship should be to ensure that the customer sees no difference between a dropship product and a product delivered from their own fulfillment centers. Dropship at scale delivers enormous benefits. Forrester carried out a study on the impact of dropship by interviewing some of our customers and modeling their composite findings. The results that they came up with showed that retailers gained over 460% return on investment on a 3-year program and achieved payback in less than 3 months. It's worth highlighting some of the bullets on the right. Dropship has enabled our customers to significantly reduce their capital outlay and handling costs whilst increasing revenue contributions. It has also enabled them to test out new products with lower risk. It has also reduced unfulfilled orders and improved the customer experience. We've helped them become more agile. Now, the topic today is a little, focused around the impact of COVID, and our platform was severely tested during lockdown and continues to see very high volumes. Like most digital retailers, we effectively experienced the prolonged peak season without any notice. The revenues going through the platform have doubled. At the same time, supply was severely disrupted. Despite this, we managed to support our customers throughout, with key customer experience metrics like the fill rate only marginally reduced during this period of time. One of the things that helped was the ability of the platform to understand stock by location, so that alternative sources of supply closer to the customer could be found. This enabled some of our customers to win business from Amazon, who struggled with availability during this time. There's more than one way to extend range. Marketplaces are very much in vogue at the moment, and a number of retailers are standing them up. Joe Kazakenkas, writing for Market Pulse, makes it clear. Fundamentally, marketplaces are a different business model. He goes on to say that marketplaces won't work for most retailers, and I tend to agree. Before a retailer invests in a marketplace, I'd therefore ask the following questions. Are you, as a retail brand, relevant enough to attract customers? Now, before I offend anybody who's out there, let's look at the failures in the area, like Tesco in the UK or Best Buy in the US. Is it really wise to effectively try and take on Amazon headfirst? Are you prepared to invest in what is a significant new competency in your business? It's not business as usual. Under marketplace models, you're going to be paid commission versus taking a wholesale margin, and that might impact your return on investment. And how do you make sure that you integrate your marketplace with your unique customer experience? Tesco learned painfully that it doesn't matter whether you say to the sellers, it's your responsibility to manage this. If it's your name over the door, customers expect you to manage the whole process, including the returns via your stores. Amazon manages to complete the circle by investing enormous amounts of money in the logistics network, which they have monetized with suppliers. Retailers don't have that. They don't really have the same deep pockets that Amazon has. So there's a definite pause for me in terms of, marketplaces have a role, but are they really a strategy here for omnichannel retailers in order to extend range? I've mentioned the need to scale several times. So what are the main things that make dropship scale? Firstly, many brands and distributors have now built a direct-to-consumer competency that eclipses that of a retailer, so they can be entrusted to fulfill on a retailer's behalf. The missing link is that retailers need to acquire the tools and the wherewithal to normalize performance of this heterogeneous supplier population, effectively getting suppliers operating like independent franchises on their behalf. Commerce Hub gives suppliers a broad menu of connecting options so that suppliers can be compatible with any retailer on the network, regardless of their technical ability. Our onboarding teams work with each supplier, regardless of this, in terms of testing and certifying suppliers specifically to each retailer's requirements. Once live, we work with suppliers to resolve issues. The second part is to drive friction out of the dropship process through a platform that is focused entirely on delivering a great customer experience. That's easy to say, but in practice, extremely hard to do when you're dealing with tens of thousands of external stock updates, orders, and returns each day, and having to predict before problems occur. The impact of trying to scale and not get this right is at best an unacceptably large internal team, and we've seen that in various retailers in Europe, or having to plaster over the cracks and facing some major issues in customer satisfaction. Commerce Hub has really distinguished itself by building a platform that can replicate the nuances of each and every retailer, proactively manage issues, and therefore deliver a brilliant, consistent customer experience. I use this screenshot to illustrate how retailers can, with an advanced dropship platform, oversee their business performance and share information simultaneously. The ongoing monitoring that this enables helps both parties to achieve consistently excellent performance and accountability. As an example, in the far left bottom corner, the indicator shows which brands or distributors were involved in any negative experiences during the past 30 days. On a daily basis, our dropship solution predicts problems by exception. Customer experience consistency also means that the process of ordering, communicating, receiving, and returning feels the same to your customers for products under dropship compared with internally delivered products. Ultimately, it means your promise to the customers on availability with desirable lead times will be met. Hard to do at scale when it's being managed for you by hundreds and even thousands of different suppliers. Commerce Hub is the world's largest and most sophisticated dropship platform. We connect 12,000 brands and distributors to enable them to list and sell products online under an inventory-free model. We regularly achieve this with NPS scores on a par or above internal fulfillment channels, and also with average fill rates of 99%. Here's a list of our retail and brand customers, large and small, spanning almost every category, and I'd be very happy to answer questions around these one-on-one. So this sort of diagram chart, which looks a little bit like some Pac-Mans on the screen, is a chart that you can see the proportion of dropship as a percentage of the total online sales for 5 of our customers. And this ranges in terms of use of dropship from 26% to 90%. You also note that the size of the online businesses we're talking about here range from €500 million to about 4 billion. So no small endeavor. And it really comes back to the fact that dropship, if done well at scale, is a needle-moving initiative. There's no doubt, however, that US retailers are ahead in their adoption when compared to Europe. Very few European retailers are running dropship that represents more than 20% of their online revenues. And our view is that European retailers have until now suffered from poorer solutions and insufficient support from in-house or smaller domestic dropship products. I'll use an example just to bring into focus how significant dropship can be. You know, we do see a lot of retailers, and I'm sort of highlighting here a typical retailer, if there is such a thing, you know, somebody in electronics or DIY or any of those categories would typically have about 50,000 products online. They'd be selling online about $1 billion of GMV, that's gross merchandise value. It's a way to assess revenue. And they're carrying about 200 million of logistics costs. All of the products, before we met them, would be handled through an internal distribution channel. When we look at this, you know, again, I want to repeat, this is not an endless aisle strategy. We're not about trebling, quadrupling necessarily the number of SKUs. This is a fairly modest expectation. And I can almost guarantee that when we look at a retailer that's this big, we will find at least 50% increase in SKUs. And that comes from, you know, different sizes, different colors, different tastes, some products that the supplier has that the retailer just hasn't been able to consider. And adjacent categories that make sense to the consumer when they go onto that brand's website. They actually don't think it's strange that they're being offered additional products. Why not sell more to them while they're there? We see an increase in revenue. It's not linear, but it's still extremely helpful. And genuinely, every time we do this, we see the halo effect. When you have a broader range, more people come to your website, and while they're there, they buy more. And so an increase in revenues of about 30% from this scale of a dropship operations are typical. And at this stage, you know, because I'm going to go through 3 of these use cases, there's really a minimal impact in terms of the cost of running a dropship operation. Let's look at if we were to go further and take a look at the SKUs that are in the distribution centers, fulfillment centers, and see whether they should be there. And again, I can almost guarantee, I'll use that phrase again, that 50% of the products that we find in a range this big shouldn't be in a warehouse. You know, many of them have not moved for a year or represent a year's worth of stock. They're simply clogging up that channel and stopping more valuable products coming through. There's a kind of an 80-20 rule here, which is, maths kind of works out. We will be able to take out 50% of those products and handle them more efficiently through dropship. And this is where you do see a saving in actual logistics cost. I think modestly, I put 7.5. It's generally over that number, but you see that people are able to either avoid handling, or they're able to avoid taking warehouse space, or they're able to in the future cut back on their expectations. And the last one comes to an operational agility. So when you're using dropship and you have this virtual capacity, what you can do is you can decide to fulfill demand that can't be met internally through a dropship. So you order a product, it's not available in the distribution center. If you have this sort of knowledge of where that product sits in your dropship network, and you have the cascade logic, you can trigger that fulfillment gets done outside of your normal distribution channel. And that can be on a planned basis. So I used to work years ago in a retailer that was, peak was at Christmas, and it was extraordinary. We hired warehouses, external warehouses, a huge cost, and lots of confusion around how product moved around. So rather than do that, just flex out the dropship network and put more products through there. Also, the ability to be able to if products are ordered, as I mentioned, and are not available, to be able to drop into the network and pull them from there so that availability stays high. And I'm kind of typically saying there's another 10,000 products there. It does add more in terms of the reduction in costs. So what I haven't done is pull that together as there's some sophistication to do that. I would urge you to go back and look at the Forrester report I referenced earlier, where we're talking about 460% return on investment. That's a more sophisticated look at the same topic. But what they say when you get to the bottom of that is that if you're a retailer of this size, you're generally able to generate about 30 million euros of benefit per year. That's a combination of increased sales and reduced cost. And that is a major proportion of retailers of that size at EBITDA. So you can see this again isn't a nice to have. It's a lovely, kind of impact on your bottom line. Coming back to the theme of this event and the future of the digital supply chain, where we believe this can go, one of the things we'd argue and predict is a collaborative network of retailers, brands and distributors, combining information flows and sharing physical assets to compete with the likes of Amazon. On the left, we've got what does Amazon deliver? It's, amazing assortment, brilliant offer, super fulfillment, but it's purpose built, and they've managed to accumulate the resources to do that. We think that many of the retailers and suppliers who aren't always best served from having that constraint of working with very large marketplaces can combine strength, in an Amazon-like supply chain. And where we are driving our business is to be able to offer to those retailers a Prime-like experience more through a network. And that includes us investing in partnerships with 3PLs, accessing a wide network of stock to optimize fulfillment, whether it be in people's stores, dark stores, or warehouses. It also includes providing hands-on merchandising support, using the analytics across our platform, so a retailer can only see what they can see. We can see a composite view of what's happening, identify trends, and help them sell better. It's really taking the same principles that Amazon's got at scale. And finally, things like investing in what we call dynamic delivery date algorithms, so that you can take on information about your carriers, about the processing times, and predict and use more competitive lead times under this network to help you compete. So my call for action is for those of you out there who are interested to come and join the revolution. In wrapping up, I accept that this has been a quite focused presentation, but I guess if you stand back, what I've said is that retailers and brands are presented with an opportunity to, as well as a threat by COVID and the disruptive businesses of Amazon. Whatever you choose to do, in our view, it has to be at scale. Whatever you do, it has to deliver a great customer experience. And I am personally convinced that there needs to be greater collaboration amongst retailers, brands, and distributors to overcome the common threats of your business. The underlying message is whatever path you decide to take, please act now. So thank you for listening. I think we have a few minutes left open for Q&A, and I've also put my details up on the screen. If anybody wants to contact me, they can do so. Thank you.
Thank you.